slow down, and I just never can.
Up all the conversation and everything, but I guess it's late enough to get started. I'd like to welcome everyone to the ISOP committee meeting. And if we would, could you have roll call? Susan, could we have roll call?
Welcome, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Atkins, for being here. Mr. Atkins is our vice chair for our committee, and tonight Mr. Schimpf has an excused absence, and he's our chair. So Mr. Atkins has graciously agreed to fill in. Thank you. Mrs. Campbell?
Present.
Mrs. D'Alessandro? You have great timing. Mr. Elliott has an excused absence. Mr. Mazurkowitz?
Present.
Mr. Mitchell?
Present.
Mr. Parrish?
Here.
Mr. Peacock?
Present.
Mr. Ropsdorf may be joining us by Zoom or may not be able to attend. Tonight's meeting we are actually hosting via Zoom for the public and in case a member needed to attend. So at this time, Mr. Ropsdorf may have an excused absence. Mr. Santos has an excused absence, as does Mr. Schellenbarger. Ms. Sherman? Yes. Mr. Schimpf has an excused absence. Mr. Simino has an excused absence. And I'm delighted to introduce a new member to our committee, Mr. John Shannon. Welcome.
Thank you.
So this is his first meeting. He shared with me this on the way in that he's watched the last 4 meetings, so he's been keeping an eye on us. In addition, we have 2 additional district staff that I'd like to introduce. Our school board member, Mrs. Langford Fleming, who is the appointed ISOC representative this year. She had a commitment, but she might be able to join us by Zoom. So,
I'm here. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. We're doing this for the first time on camera, so I wasn't sure if we would see the Zoom attendees on camera or not. So thank you, Mrs. Jada Langford Fleming. Would you like to say anything as you join the committee?
I'm just excited to be here and learn more, and just want to say thank you to all of you for serving our community in this capacity. So looking forward to meeting all of you face-to-face at the next meeting.
Wonderful, thank you. In addition, I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce Mr. Larry Stevens, who is our Chief Operations Officer. And he has joined the district in July of this year, and he's over the operations division, and so the maintenance and capital maintenance and construction projects we'll hear about tonight fall within his purview. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Stevens. Okay, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Atkins.
All right. Next thing we have on our agenda is the approval of the prior meeting minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to review for approval? Yes, for approval, yeah. That's Mr. Parrish for approval.
I'll second.
And second by Mr. Peacock. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Minutes approved. Next, we have on our agenda public comments. Do we have anyone that would like to make any public comment? Oh man, I'm looking at it. Okay. Next we have on the agenda is the ISOP chairman updates, and the First thing we'd like to say that we mentioned this in the past and we want to just reiterate it again that sales tax revenue has not been used for Hurricane Ian recovery efforts. Capital funds have been only been used. And the next thing on my update is that the ISOP committee is proud to say that we've made a presentation. And that presentation was made to the foundation, and that was done on August the 18th. And we had some members there. Some of the committee members were there, and some of the board members were there. And they said I had at least 50 members. 50 people in attendance. So it was well attended. And we have another one scheduled for September the 30th. And this will be to the National Pan-Atlantic Council. And I was really looking forward to being a part of that one, but for some reason I didn't know about it until I just found out about it today, and I'll be out of town. I hate I'm gonna be able to miss that one.
And I will be out of town also.
You'll be out of town?
And I'll be out of town also.
I hate that, but
So who's making the presentation?
Steve is gonna make it, and I failed to mention that Steve made the first presentation too. And I understand he did an excellent job. We may just let him do all of them, you know.
He did a good job.
Hey, who all in favor of that? While he's not here, we'll take advantage of
If you're not here, you get a sign.
Yeah, that's right.
I think we put it in as being voluntold.
Yes.
Well, that was all the update that I wanted to make as far as the chairman was concerned. Miss Lanford Fleming, as a board member, do you have any? She don't have any? She have any comment? No?
I have no comments at this time. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Chairman, if I could just make a comment. I'm putting together the Education Day for the Estero Leadership class, the incoming class. It's October 20th. And I've spoken with Marshall Bauer, and he's going to do a brief presentation. We're going to FGCU, FSW. But if it's okay, I'd be happy to do the Change for Change presentation to that group. It's about 21 people. So if I could maybe, I brought the most recent one that Steve used, but I don't know if there's any updates on the funds. Nope. Could you just send me a clean copy of this? Would you mind? And I'll make sure that I'll do a presentation. There'll be probably a total of about 30 people there, 21 leadership folks and some other people. So I'll go ahead and take the time to make that presentation since I watched Steve do it. I think I can handle it. So. All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Susan, you got all that?
All right, so the next part of our meeting, we're going to have reports from staff on the 4 different categories that were approved by the referendum for sales tax usage. So first, we're going to hear from Mr. Scott Rickenbacker from on construction project updates.
Good evening, committee members. Lots happening in the district, so I want to start off. We divide our projects that we're currently using sales tax on into different components. The first slide that you will see is our procurement phase. This is the first phase we engage with on projects that we deem we're going to utilize, and this is the advertisement, the RFQ process to gain. And you can see that we have 7 projects currently in the hopper right now. Re-roof renovation, Cape Coral High School, Cypress Lakes Middle School High School is in the procurement phase for an HVAC central plant, which will feed both the future rebuild of Cypress Middle and redo the HVAC piping and fan units and so forth in Cypress Lake High School and the Center for the Arts as well. We have Edgewood Academy HVAC renovation for $5 million. Fort Myers High School is going through in a re-roofing program right now. And Lehigh Senior High School re-roofing. $6 million. Royal Palm Exceptional Center, HVAC renovation. That is a smaller amount, and we use continuing contract on that. So right now we're waiting for the continuing contractor to provide 3 bid estimates for that work, and then we'll get that kicked off. Spring Creek Elementary, it's our HVAC renovation for $5,500. Currently, we have 7 projects in a design phase. These are all larger capital projects. We have an Alva School plumbing renovation, older school, so we're going out there to redo sewer and water lines in there. That is in the design phase, and I believe the documents should have just been prepared, so now we can go into the actual construction phase. and bidding phase. Bonita Springs Elementary campus renovation. This is Bonita Springs Elementary. We're in the process right now of expanding the scope of that project due to some structural issues that have been uncovered with the historic building and the campus. So there will be some new news coming forward on that school and that campus as it's presented to both the superintendent, the board, and approved to move forward for discussion. Cape Coral Technical College, again, right now we have a master plan that's out there to provide a new auto lab, a new marine lab. Currently, Hector Caffaretta, we've established our portable campus in the area where that would be located. There are some discussions ongoing now in terms of their old campus and whether or not we could purpose that for this. But again, these are all things that have to be vetted through and brought forward to the superintendent and the board, school board. Gulf Middle, we're doing a HVAC renovation, another phase at Gulf Middle. Littleton Elementary is undergoing a renovation for their plumbing, water, sewer systems that have reached their useful life and are being replaced. OO Middle School, this is new construction. We are in phase 1. OO Middle School is the parcel on State Road 82. That's that property we heard, so that is moving forward into the design phase, was approved by the board. South Fort Myers High School, a renovation to the roof there. We're in the design phase there, and it's a $503,000 design phase. So again, you'll see we're engaging now in a lot of our schools that are 15 to 20 years old. We're starting with the design, and we're also starting with the construction of re-roofing those facilities. Next slide, please. Thank you. Construction phase, we have 4 major projects in construction right now. Cape Coral Technical College, we just completed their single point entry on that particular campus. Fort Myers Technical College, that renovation is underway. That is an entire campus renovation for the programs of the staff that run that school, slowly taking it while it's occupied and still serving students area by area. That is scheduled to be completed November 24th, and that's roughly a cost of $18 million. In addition, we have G. Weaver Hips. That's our pre-K facility at the G. Weaver Hips facility. So we're under construction as we speak right now, building that brand new pre-K facility to service that area. Orangewood Elementary, we also have an HVAC program that is under construction as well there. Again, systems that have aged out in these schools, and we're at the point where we're going through and replacing them. In addition, I understand that you folks, Franklin Parks will be funded with tax revenue. At the end of the day, it is a COPS project, COPS funding. However, the tax revenue supports the payments, for lack of a better term. That is underway. We right now are about to recover schedule. There has been some chatter that it was behind schedule, and that is true. The contractor had decided to shift some of their concrete work and advance footing work before the rains came. It delayed some of the precast areas. We decided to hold back on the precast, so we had 1 crane mobilization. So we have 14 panels left to do. I don't know if you folks have been by the school at all, but all the walls are almost done. There's 14 left to do. That's an average day, 1 day of erection. So technically speaking, tomorrow, if we have good weather, we had a little early break today because of the lightning. They have to stop. There is a potential that all the walls will be erected. We have in our schedule right now, if all the walls are up by close of business Monday, we'll have recovered schedule, and we'll actually be ahead of schedule by 5 business days. So I know there's been some chatter out there that it's behind schedule, and there were some sequential things that the construction manager had chosen to do for their purposes. We monitor that every week. I get a list, just so you're aware, of all of our main projects. We sit with my people. We go over the schedule on every project intently to ensure that we are in accordance with the master schedule, and if not, what are you going to do to regain schedule? And we monitor that.
Thanks, Scott.
That's my update. Thank you very much. Any questions?
I do have one. The Alva School on Highway 82, is that $6 million for the planning?
We have a phase 1, what we call phase 1 and a phase 2 process. In order to come through with accurate estimates, guaranteed maximum price, total project cost to the board, we do a phase 1. That engages the architect, the construction management firm, and the building official. Now, the architect's fee in that amount is the full design of the drawings. The CMAR, or construction manager, and the building official, we have them participate so that at the end of that design process, the drawings have been reviewed by our building official, third-party building official, and are ready to build, they're permitted. No hidden surprises after the fact. Our CMAR, construction manager, attends as well to provide value engineering, so that when those drawings are done at the end of phase 1, we put them out to bid. There should be no value engineering required. There should be no unforeseen permit issues with the drawings. They've already been ironed out. And when we get the GMP delivered after it goes out to public bid and presented to the board, it's the actual guaranteed maximum price to build that school. We use that method and model on Gateway High School successfully, Amana Sierra, MM Middle Edition, and currently at Franklin Parks.
Thank you. I do have one question. I noticed Riverdale High School fell off of the list.
What you're hearing isn't necessarily true. Riverdale, in order to meet student population and safety needs, Riverdale was broken into multiple construction phases. So what I just described to you is that we don't begin until 100% of the construction documents are created. There was a requirement to have those facilities up and the safety and the site changes done by 2025. It's called August of 2025. The drawings for that entire program, both the new gymnasium, science building, and the interior renovation would not have been completed. So if I had waited on that job may have not been done until 2027. So the decision was made with the district's guidance to go ahead and start the site work the first year, get all the site work done, the additional parking spaces for the safety issues so that the children that were parking over in that grocery store mall across the street would not engage over there. The original budget of $41 million, that was not created by me, but it was the budgeted amount that we had to work on. The team was directed to create 4 possible scenarios for that campus. We call them A through D. Those ranged from a very minimal impact on the campus to a very large impact with the gymnasium, the new science building, and a lot of the infrastructure, emergency generator upgrade, emergency lighting, all the water and sewer on the school is to its life end. So we've taken on a lot of maintenance work into this build. And those were provided to cabinet and the superintendent and the board at that time, and they chose option D. Option D just happened to be the most expensive option with the most that the school would get. It was deemed that the bones of the school were still usable. So, and there was a lot of community involvement with that school, so we went forward. So the first phase that you saw that went to the board was for $70 million. That's our phase 2A. That was the GMP that covered all of the site work, all of the gymnasium, new gymnasium building work, and all of the new science building work. There will be a phase 2 that will have to come to the board and be included as part of the increase in the total project cost that manages all of the interior renovations that have to go on during an active campus.
Sure, and I understand that. My concern was that it's no longer, it was on under one of our construction projects, and it's no longer there, so that's why I was asking.
That is depending upon how it is financed.
Okay.
So we may have put it on there, reporting as a project, but if it's not being paid for by tax referendum, then we were requested to pull it off the list.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that was a truck question.
Would you be able to tell me?
Pardon me?
A portion of it is on.
So is it tax referendum? So as we just got notified today that Franklin is part of the tax referendum, I'm just being notified that so is Riverdale High School. So you will have 2 slides for each of those schools at your next gathering.
So within the next 12 months, would we see any more new schools coming online?
No. Your average school from the moment, a new school project is a 5-year program. On the day that you determine that you need seats, by the time you go through permitting, utilities, South Florida water management, fish and wildlife, roads, that physical construction of a school, I can tell you quickly, high schools are 20 months. Middle schools are 15 to 16. Elementaries are about 14. That's after all of the permitting constraints. The parcels that we are now moving out to accommodate student growth in the East Zone, where the greatest need is, the parcels that we're on don't have utilities. So that's something that we have to, I had to do that at Island Coast High School in the Cape. Island Coast High School had no utilities out there. We partnered with the city of Cape Coral. We did the Dee Navarro Parkway extension and brought that roadway connection in with the utilities in conjunction with the city at Cape Coral. That's how we got that school onto utilities. these parcels out here right now with the board accepting NNN for moving forward, phase 1. You've got approximately 12 months of design and permitting in the perfect world. Right now, FDEP can be anywhere from 12 months to 18 months in permitting. We have no control over that. You can't put a shovel in the ground until the permitting is complete. And then, as I spoke to you, it would be about 20 months of construction fabrication to open the school up for occupancy.
The Cape Coral Technical College with the location, the temporary location of the elementary school on campus, you made some mention about the you're talking about maybe changing the location of the expansion. Can you?
No, I'm not at liberty. There's options. I was letting you know that there's potential options with the existing campus site that potentially, rather than putting those where the portables sit today, which is where originally those expansions were meant to be.
I understand that.
There is a possibility, and this is going to be presented, that we could utilize the old Hector Caffaretta property as that expansion position. But again, that's being prepared. We're putting together a presentation for my superiors and the superintendent and the board, just as something to look at and to consider.
Thank you.
So you said that an elementary school is about 14 months.
14 to 15 months.
So, but as I look at, when will Franklin Park be completed?
I can tell you it will be ready this coming summer of '24. Whether or not the substantial, on the top of my head, I can't tell you if it's June 1st, July 1st, or August 1st, but it's usually one of the first, so it's probably June 1st or July 1st.
And so at our next meeting, Franklin Park and Riverdale, we will see them on the slides,
Yes, that is correct.
since they are funded with sales tax. Okay.
Correct.
And I don't know why there was ever discussion about Franklin Park, because as the sales tax proposal, when it was done, Franklin Park was a school that was mentioned all the time as coming from, as why we needed the sales tax.
I think where the we had it on the chart initially, but I don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the first phase, what we call our phase 1 dollars, is funded by the tax funding or COPS funding. Would that be a true statement?
It would have been from the COPS funding, but, and I'll get into it when I get to the plan. We're paying for a portion of it because of the timing. The timing was delayed for Franklin Park and Cypress for the custodies and things to happen and get in place. So it was delayed, and so we're doing a portion of it now. So, and I'll talk about that.
Okay, thank you, Kim.
But yes, to answer your question, both schools will be on your next report as tax revenue projects.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thanks.
Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. David Newland joining us to talk about our safety and security projects, and he is our Executive Director of Safety and Security.
Good evening. Good evening. So I'm here to talk about OpenGate, our project that we started this year. Just to go over OpenGate, what that is. I know it says a weapon detection system, but just to give some background on OpenGate. Again, it's a weapon detection system. We're looking for weapons and contraband. Again, I always reiterate, it's not a metal detector. That's not the purpose of it. But it is on it's fully charged, goes 10, 12 hours on a charge. It's weatherproof. So this project is a slow rollout for all of our schools to have OpenGate systems at every entry point of every school in Lee County. Again, it's a slow rollout, so the methodology of how we do that, we looked at schools based on several different ways. Early adopters, those schools that are principals that wanted to adopt the program at the very beginning. Also, we looked at less degree of difficulty versus medium degree and high degree. Now, those are based on school design. Some schools are easier to implement OpenGate, maybe more than the newer schools that have one building, or those schools that maybe have numerous outer buildings may be a little bit more difficult to implement. Plus, we look at all the entry points everywhere where the students come in or the public. So beyond that too, we look at all 3 levels of schools that we start OpenGate with, meaning that when I start with the even amount disbursement of every level, meaning elementary, middle, and high school, and also include all of our 3 zones. So right now we have done 2 rollouts, meaning the first deployment we started at the very beginning of the year. We just did one 2 weeks ago. So right now we currently have 34 schools that currently have OpenGate active right now. And again, that covers every entry point of our schools. Part of what we do is we walk through every school as well before we do that. Try to reduce entry points by students if we can. If we can reduce those entry points, that's always better. Control our pedestrian traffic. Then those are implemented in those locations, as well as anybody coming into the school late after the bell rings. In other words, every person, meaning an adult or student, must go through that system by the front office. And those usually are established outside the office for safety reasons as well. So right now with our project, the idea is by the end of this school year, every school in Lee County will have Open Gate before the end of the year. So that's our goal right now. The next rollout will be next month. Obviously with the current funding source, which was through this committee here, as well as other funding sources as legislative, our legislative priorities we had put in for last year to also help fund this project as well as additional funding with that project too. So right now we are doing very well with the system. It's gone very well, it's been very positive. We have a lot of good support from our parents, our staff, our students. So it's been very successful, very few concerns. Anytime a parent does have a concern, I always respond back to them, answer any questions that they have about how the system works, anything like that as well. So it's been a very, very positive system. So again, the idea is that we will continue doing our slow rollout, same as we've been going so far, and just the idea, the goal is by the end of the year, every school will have a system in every entry point in every school in Lee County. Any questions about Open Gate or?
Well, I understand it's one of the problems that you were having, like at the first rollout, there was some delay, and it was because the student wasn't prepared, didn't know what to bring, and what is there any plan to try to in future rollouts to try to inform the students of what they can and cannot bring in first, and that would slow some of that delay?
Well, obviously with the first rollout, we learn from the first one always, and it gets better. Even the initial implementation of how we program the machines to delivery to setup. So as we've done this, for example, when we first did this, as you saw, we did a press conference, we did training videos. So right now we're talking about doing a more detailed video to show here's the things that may set it off, and here's a step-by-step process. But when you start this process, the first couple days, as we've seen from every district that have done this as well, it's always a little bit, I won't say chaotic, but the students are learning, and so is the staff, and how this works. And as we do this, we've been able, so the second rollout, for example, was much smoother because now we learned from the first one. How do we improve as we move forward? So that's what we've been doing. So now as we do this, we've gotten much better. You know, I'll go out, or my staff will go out to the school prior to. We'll walk through the whole process, make sure everything's set up properly, make some suggestions how things should be set up better. And then the first day or second day of every school location, we are there to support that school and staff to make sure we help them through that process as well as the students to get through it. So it's gotten much better. And I can tell you from the first day to the second day, I won't mention the school, but we cut down 25 minutes the second day. So the students are in school on time.
Okay.
And this is the largest school we have in Lee County.
How many entry points are there normally to a school?
It can vary based on the school design. So I have one school that's it's basically one building, a newer design. We're able to reduce it to one entry point. We have some schools, just because of all the outer buildings, it could be anywhere, it could be up to 4. Possibly. It just depends. So we work on trying to reduce that if it's possible. We also, I'm sure you would agree, have to make sure it's safe. Wherever we're having the students go to, we got to make sure it's a safe walk-in area to that location as well. So
at that entry point, should there be something detected, is there somebody there to take care of the situation, or?
Always. Okay. So we have worked out at every entry point. We have no staff in there as well. We have communication. We've gone through these, all the scenarios, and that's why when we first did this, for example, as I mentioned earlier, when a parent or a student comes to the school late in the day, we keep that system outside the school. So that way, everything can be done, so single point of entries, right? I go to the school, I show my ID. Okay, thanks, Mr. Neal, now I've seen your ID, and now I want to see you walk through Open Gate. So as I'm outside, I'll walk through Open Gate. They see the light's green, now they allow me in. Now, for some reason it doesn't, but now I am outside the school. I'm not inside. Yeah. So that makes things, so we have that down to a good process of how that works out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Chief, my 16-year-old, who never compliments anything about anybody, North Fort Myers, which was a rollout school, complained tremendously the first day. And now she's like, hey, Dad, it really kind of works pretty good now. So congratulations, because I've never got her to say anything good about me. Say something good about your rollout of that process.
Oh, well, thank you. That means a lot. Thank you. And I got to say, the students have been great about this. They really have. Everybody has.
First, I want to thank you for this because it's very important to our schools. And was I correct in saying you now have 34 schools?
Yes, 34 schools are active right now with OpenGate in their schools.
The next phase, there will be all of them?
By October, in October, there'll be 50. By the end of the year, every school will have them, yes. That's the goal.
Big job.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Any others? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to cover our technology project updates, and this evening we're going to have Mr. Patrick Way, Director of Technology Operations, provide the update.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So we have 7 security technology upgrade projects ongoing. We have 6 interactive technology projects and our refresh programs. Since July through now, September, we've completed 6 different elementary schools with instructional Atlas technology, Amanacer Elementary, Edgewood, J. Colon, Tice, Orange River, and Spring Creek. Surveillance, we have no official projects ongoing for that to finish right now. Our access control, finished up Pelican Elementary, Gulf Elementary, and Pine Woods Elementary. And for our intrusion as well, Buckingham Reception Center again, Royal Prom, Southwest Florida Public Service Academy. Those are the projects we've kind of completed over the last months and the updates for the current ones. Are there any questions? Our projects pretty much focus right on all the construction and deliverables, so when those are done, we kind of just deploy all the equipment and make it work. So let us know of any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next, we're going to go through our capital maintenance project updates, and Mrs. Barbara Cedino will be presenting that information for us tonight.
Thank you for the introduction, Mrs. Malay. Good evening, ISA committee members and fellow colleagues. This evening, good evening. This evening, I will be providing you with highlights of referendum projects that maintenance services staff members are currently managing. For the period of July 2023 through December 2023, the department is focusing on a combination of projects that address safety and security needs, as well as cooling requirements for facilities. As you can see from the graph, so far this school year, a total of 9 purchase orders have already processed for bathroom, blinds, cabinetry, flooring upgrades, and others. Next slide, please. Through today, these 9 purchase orders total approximately $8.2 million, with bathroom and cabinetry upgrades accounting for 93% of the funds expensed through today. Next slide, please. In addition to the 9 projects underway, there are an additional 35 projects the department is handling for the period of July 2023 through December 2023. For this subset of projects, scopes are being developed and proposals are being obtained. As can be seen on the graph, this additional subset of projects encompass blinds, cabinetry, electrical panel, lighting, chiller upgrades, and others. Blind upgrades are a focus to ensure alignment with the district's safety protocols. Flooring projects are necessary due to age and overall wear and tear. Chiller upgrades are due to equipment age, failures, and the need for redundancy to meet the cooling demands of campuses. And in the case of lighting upgrades, will align with new energy codes as well as improve the foot candles, the lumens, and ultimately the aesthetics and brightness of the classroom environment. And this next slide, number 9, the next slide provides a breakdown of maintenance managed projects by school level for the period of July 2023 through December 2023. As the graph depicts, the majority of the projects for this period are taking place at elementary school. In total, there are 21 elementary school projects, which equates with 60% of the projects. And in dollars, this is approximately $15 million being allocated to this grade level throughout the district in all of the zones. This concludes this portion of the presentation for the Maintenance Services Department. Any questions for me? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sedino. I have a reminder, when you're speaking, if you could please pull your microphone closer or move closer to the microphone, so as we capture the comments that this will be recorded, and we'll want to be sure that they're clear. Thank you. Next up, we have Ms. Kelly Letcher from our Budget Director, who's going to introduce some of our sales tax forecast information.
Hello, everyone. How you doing? So I'm going to go over it was the late packet that was sent to you on this sales tax budget outlook. So basically, this is the from last year's actuals through the total of the plan for sales tax, just so that you have it. What we're looking at is the sales tax revenue that we've projected over the period, which you've been seeing that number when Mr. Acosta was reporting all of that. The interest that we are expecting to receive, and then the prior year carryover, which gives us our total revenue for the years. Estimated revenue, I should say. And then the appropriations pieces that are broken down into construction projects, safety projects, maintenance projects, technology, and debt service. So I'm not going to hit every one of them as you're hearing what the things are, but these are the major things that are listed. I do want to remind everyone that we split fund things, so that's why there's some confusion that happens in here, is that we do split fund things. So Franklin Park is paid partly from the sales tax, partly from capital outlay millage. If you remember, some of the discussions that we've had in this committee is that we didn't want the whole thing to be debt at the end of the years, and so what we're trying to do is spread that out, doing a portion of it from sales tax instead of loading it all into sales tax in the short amount of time that we have left. So we're making those debt payments longer, paying what we can from sales tax, and then the rest from the millage, which is why there's a little bit of confusion, because it's not being paid directly from sales tax. So that's where some of the confusion is lying. But our construction projects are listed, and each of the sections you'll see the safety projects. Safety improvements is where the safety information that he was talking about would be showing up. And then you have your maintenance projects, the technology projects, and then at the very last page is the debt that is being paid, currently proposed to be paid from sales tax. I do want to point out a couple of things. If you see the end, the carryover from 23 is 153 million. Sounds like a lot. Part of the issue that we had there was with Hurricane Ian, that when it came through, really slowed down the ability for us to keep up on things as we went to hurricane mode for a while versus construction and maintenance and stuff. And so things slowed down, so we have a large carryover. We have now redistributed that, and hopefully we'll be able to catch back up on those things and spread it. I do want to point out one more thing on the sides. When Mr. Acosta comes up, he'll be showing the different pieces of the breakout of this stuff. You will see the reserves that are currently sitting at 31% of the funding right now. As you can see, we've broken it all out. I want to point out what that is so that there's no confusion, and as things move throughout the year, we'll be changing it. When, let's just say like Bonita, you'll see it's 20 million on here. It sits in a reserve account until the board does the actual approval of the project, and once they do the actual approval, we move it from reserves into the project. That's when you'll see it on the other slides move into construction versus reserves. So I just want to point that out. When you see that, you'll see that large 31%. I wanted to be able to explain that before it came up. Any questions on this part? Okay, then I'll turn it over to Matt.
Just one.
Sure.
It looks like you're looking at about a $3 million increase per year for sales tax revenue. is that from the Department of Revenue, or is that your projections? Where are you getting that projection going?
So Matt can probably explain that a little bit better because he actually does it, but I think we do a little bit of everything built into it.
So we look at both the historical, what we've seen year over year with growth, which is usually between 5 to 7%. We also will look at, get reports from the Office of Economic and Demographic Research. They do working papers yearly, and from there they'll actually estimate for the state of Florida as well as for Lee County what they're projecting for sales tax.
So would you say these projections are conservative?
I would say we always tend to be conservative. We've been less conservative in the previous years when we've seen, in the past you may have seen where we had 20% over what we projected. We've tried to narrow that a little bit more to, really reflect what is coming in. So for this year, we were about 10% in 23, and we're kind of trying to keep within that range as opposed to like the 20-25%. Although
Just to rebuild from my end, it's definitely skewing sales tax higher. So, I mean, that's clear. And also the influx of insurance dollars into this area is also, but I just wanted to know, it looked like once you get past the big bump for this year, it looks like you're about $3 million a year. I just want to know where that was coming from, so.
We'll see. When we were in the pandemic, we did not expect, the kind of the growth that we've seen in the county, and the growth has just continued. So when we were in the pandemic, the expectation was that would shrink,
Right.
and that was not the case.
No, but
and
that's
so
perfect. I mean, that's a good find. I mean, that's a great thing, yeah. And
So-
and actually, the assumption you made during the pandemic, I thought were all fine, because you don't want to ever over-project. You'd rather under-project and over-produce. So, yeah.
I think in 23 we were less conservative and kind of holding our fingers, but we actually ended up being at 7%. You'll see above what we projected. So okay. So questions on that?
So you might as well go ahead.
Okay. So the first slide we're looking at is the 24 estimated capital revenue. This is all capital revenue, a total of $383.3 million. This is all new revenue. It does not include fund balances. Of that, the local property tax is the largest portion of $208 million, or 55% of the estimated revenue, and sales tax of $126, or 33% of the capital revenue. This is kind of what Kelly was referring to. Our FY24 sales tax budget is $208 million. Of that, capital maintenance currently is at 27, and construction at 25% of that budget. And you'll see here's the reserve of 31%. As the board approves those final numbers for those projects, that reserve will shrink, and those amounts will be budgeted into those construction projects. So you'll see that in our next meeting, that will not be showing as 31%. And the construction does include debt service for new schools. Okay. So this next slide is our year over year, FY22 and 23. I wanted to point something out on this slide. You'll see that for June, it looks like we were below FY23. Now, we receive a quarterly discretionary payment that comes in each quarter. It's kind of a true up of what we get for that quarter. So every 4 times a year, they give us kind of an extra bump of stuff that they've now kind of trued up to. Usually that is accrued back to the year that it was earned if it's received within a certain period of time. For this year, it was not received within that time period, and so it is now reflecting in the new year. So that's what you'll see for June, we're at 8, but then in July of this year, we're looking at 12. It's a $4 million discretionary payment. So just kind of wanted to show that. You will see that on the slides. It looks like we're way above in July and way below in June, but it's that timing with that discretionary payment. But all told, if we include that with the FY23, we would be about 120 million received for the year. Okay. So this next slide is our projected to actual. For where we're at the year, what we've projected is 403 million, and that is from January of 2019 to now, as of 9/11/23. We received 449 million, or 11.3 above what we've projected. Then you'll see your FY23 results. Without the 4 million discretionary, we are at 116 million received over the 108 projected, or 7% above projected. And then where we're at currently, we've only received one payment so far in FY24. And our last, you'll see just another breakdown of the FY23 projected to actual. So 7 million above what we projected, or 7%. And then you'll see our FY24 projected of 126 million. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right. We're down to making motions and voting on this. First of all, the first thing, I'd like to make a motion to approve the sales tax financial and as presented as being consistent with referendum expenditure requirement. Do I hear a motion for that? Ms. DeSalvo? Second by Mr. Shannon. Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion has been approved. Okay. Do you have it, Susan? Okay. I'm sorry, I'm moving fast.
Good job.
And the next motion would be to approve the project and as presented as being consistent with the referendum project requirement. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
So moved, that is by Mr. Parrish.
Second.
Second by Joe. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carried and approved. Man, I'm doing good.
You are the fastest chairman we've ever had.
Don't get any ideas though.
No, I love it.
Next is on our agenda. Do we have any members comment? Starting with Ms. Sherman.
No comments, thank you.
Mr. Mitchell.
I don't have a comment, I have a question again, maybe. Where does the Fort Myers Beach School fall into this, or does it?
Into sales tax?
Yeah.
Fort Myers Beach is a hurricane replacement, so it will not fall into sales tax.
Yeah, that was part of the update that I made at the beginning, that those it would not be due to the hurricane.
Thank you.
Mr. Peacock?
No comment.
Mr. Parrish?
No comment. Thank you.
Mr. Shannon?
I guess just one comment as the rookie here. Is it possible to get a list of like the safety and security projects, some of the other projects? We talk in aggregate?
Safety and security.
Great question. Our safety and security projects are presented publicly in aggregate, and a couple of years ago, the Sales Tax Committee agreed to have the chair meet separately in advance of meetings with the executive director of safety and security to be briefed on projects, and then when the chair speaks, he provides information that he is aware of the details of the projects, and that his recommendation he brings forward as to compliance with the referendum requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Greta?
No comments.
Olive?
No comment?
Joe?
No comment.
And I have no comments. So I would like to have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Meeting's adjourned.
Let's roll.